Hey, gang, I'm thrilled to be back in the saddle after a little break this summer with another episode of the Power9 podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert. My guest today is the co-founder of one of Minnesota's most prolific craft breweries and has some awesome things in the work right around the corner. I'm excited to share the journey and what the future holds for my friend, Matt Schwandt. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aaron. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, you're one person I had on my radar here, and I've been doing this for a couple of years. And I hit you up a couple months ago when I saw you at an event, and you agreed. I don't know if it was reluctantly or not, but I'm pumped that you're on the show finally, man.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is great.
Yeah. So you got a lot of stuff going on. So I want to dig into so the way I like to do this, I want to get into a little bit of your journey because there's some things that happen in your journey that help drive you to make some of the decisions you have going on now. So where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Golden Valley, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Lived there until I was 18. Had a pretty ordinary childhood. Parents both worked. My dad actually was an entrepreneur after going to law school. Really similar journey to me. We can get into that. And my mom was an elementary school teacher, and the elementary school was literally across the street from our house, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And when I was 18, I decided that I was going to move to Nashville, Tennessee to become a professional guitar player. So I hoped, because I've been a musician my whole life. I was really passionate about it. I still am.
Yeah.
But I decided that, I wanted to get out and go to a major music market and, see what could happen.
That we could go 9 ways of Sunday in this, and I do know this about you, and so I do want to unpack that a little bit. So, in your family, was music a big part of your upbringing, or was this just some kind of hidden talent that you found out you had?
It was a huge part of my upbringing. Both my parents are musicians. My dad and mom both sing. My dad had a number of bands growing up when he was in high school and college. One of which actually was briefly signed to Sony Columbia in the late 60s. And they did pretty well from, a couple of kids from La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I was always surrounded by it. I started playing piano when I was 5 years old. I won a state competition when I was 9 or 10 and got to play at Northrop Auditorium in front of a bunch of people. And I remember that being a terrifying experience.
Yeah.
But it was also super cool. I mean, just being up on a stage, being able to do something I love to do in front of a lot of people was really, really cool. It was a formative experience.
What was what kind of music was on? I know musical families like that, you probably music's on in the background, and whether it be cooking dinner or hanging around in the house, something like that. What type of music did your parents have that you were kind of subject to early on?
It was a mix of the Beatles and Billy Joel, almost exclusively.
Really?
Yeah,
that's pretty specific. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Wow.
My dad was a huge Beatles nut, and
Oh.
I became one in high school.
Did that have an influence on the type of music that you chose to play and your approach to music?
Yeah, I think it did. I just was so in awe of, Paul McCartney and John Lennon's songwriting. For what they were doing at the time, it was so revolutionary. I even took a college course when I was in music school in college in Nashville, called History of the Beatles, and got real nerdy about the Beatles and their songwriting. And it was so fun to know that there was some real intention behind what they were doing. It may have sounded all, kind of bubblegummy and pop, at least in the beginning, to the ordinary listener, but there was a lot of intention going on in their craft. And I thought that was so cool.
And so let's go back to almost like elementary school and things like that. Was music a big part of your life at that point? And then did you like sports or any other activities? Were you a big activities person, or were you pretty focused on the music side of things and then school?
I played sports like most kids did. I played soccer, baseball, basketball up until high school. And then that's when I really just focused in on music.
And where'd you go to high school?
I went to Armstrong High School in Plymouth.
Oh, all right. So we probably know some mutual people there. I know a bunch of people from Armstrong. We won't get
Okay.
into that. That's boring for our listeners. That's fun for you and I. So did they give that space? I think some schools do a really good job of creating that space for kids that want to focus in on music and outside of, let's call it air quotes, band, right? Did they do a good job of that?
Yeah, they did. I mean, this was still when music and drama were pretty well funded at most public schools. And so there was opportunity there. And, I was always participating in talent shows. I was in jazz band playing guitar and saxophone, kind of switching back and forth. And I was in choir 1 year too, because I wanted to become a better vocalist. But the thing that sticks out the most as far as high school opportunity was my senior year. They allowed me to become part of this program called the Mentorship Connection. And instead of going to class in the afternoon, I think it was twice a week, I was placed in a mentorship situation, in my area of interest. And I got assigned to a mentor who worked at Orphan Records, which is a local record label that existed years ago. But they had a studio facility where the Replacements used to practice at 3rd and Washington downtown. Yeah. And so twice a week, I was the studio intern, and I got to sit in on sessions, and I got to learn how the marketing of music, works. And I met some really cool connections there. I got a couple engineering sessions through that connection for Michael Bland, who played in Prince's New Power Generation band. One day I was just at the studio and he said, "Hey, do you know how to run an ADAT machine?" And I was like, "Yeah, more or less." He's like, "Do you want to come track a session with me? I'm working with this new vocalist this weekend." And I was just like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I showed up and I tracked this female vocalist for an afternoon, and man, it was a super cool experience.
Sweet. Yeah. I mean, to be able to, that mentorship side of things, to be able to afford those opportunities. Otherwise you're just still in the high school bubble. Yeah. That just, I mean, so did seeing some of that and have some of that exposure to what was bigger than even the Twin Cities really push you to start thinking about leaving the Twin Cities and heading to Nashville?
Yes, that was probably a pretty pivotal experience for that. It's like, okay, at the time, this is about as big as it gets in the Twin Cities. I mean, Orphan was a pretty well-known local label, and there are a lot of names that came through that studio, like local names like GB Layton, Tim Mahoney, Johnny Lang, David Z, some fairly significant names at the time. I mean, this is like mid-90s. But I was like, there's something bigger out there, and I want to see what it's about.
So how did that conversation go with your family when you made the decision that you're heading to Nashville?
They were super supportive. I think they were supportive that I had a direction, because I mean, if it wasn't for music, I honestly don't know what I would have done in college other than just what my dad did. Probably he was an English major.
Yeah. And so, my wife and I went to Nashville a couple of years ago and went in the middle of June, and boy, everybody and their brother, it seems like that is such a hard place to get found. And there's just so much talent there. And you go walk in the streets, and I'm sure, when you were there is not much different, although, they've thrown a lot of money at, that strip there. But I mean, the talent that you hear coming in and out of there, how is that cultural change from going from the Twin Cities where, you're a talented musician to going to Nashville where you're one of many?
It was humbling.
Yeah.
Humbling to say the least. There are so many phenomenal musicians in that city, like a level that I had never expected. It was, I mean, it was cool in that we, everyone felt challenged to get better and be better and seek out more opportunity, but pretty cutthroat and pretty difficult to cut through the noise.
Is there one experience from your time there that you always look back on and are just like, man, that was surreal, or that was just an amazing experience?
Yeah, I mean, the band that I played in back then, we got to open for some pretty big acts at the time. We opened for Maroon 5 once. we actually were on tour in New York City, and we played this really cool venue called the Mercury Lounge, and we opened for a band called Eagles of Death Metal, which Josh
Mm-hmm.
Homme from Queens of the Stone Age played in.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really fun experience because there were a lot of cool sort of celebrity musicians at that show because they wanted to check out what Eagles of Death Metal were all about.
Yeah.
They didn't care about us, but
Yeah.
it was fun to be a part of it.
So was that your, I should have asked this a little earlier. Was that your genre of music? Was it rock? Is that,
Yeah.
and is the time frame here? Am I still tracking with like late 90s, early 2000s? Is this about the
Yep.
time frame? Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that makes sense. Of like, I remember Eagles of Death Metal and obviously Queens of the Stone Age and all that stuff. So that was right in that wheelhouse of time. So was that the type of music like the late what I'll call like late alt rock or grunge or whatever into what would be the early 2000s hard rock?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at the time, it was kind of funny. At the time, I really had no interest in country or even country adjacent genres. And as soon as I moved back to Minneapolis in 2005, all of a sudden I started listening to alt country and Americana. And I was just like, oh man, I missed out on this. This stuff is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that your music? What about now? Fast forward to now. Like I think musicians do a really good job of broadening themselves to listen and have an appreciation for a lot of different music. Is there something that you gravitate towards now?
I listen to so many different genres and artists. I just really appreciate great songwriting, great artistry, people who play their instruments really well. That said, I love some indie rock.
Yeah.
So I mean, I enjoy a lot of it. Lately I've been listening to a lot of I guess I hear people call it dream pop, 1975, Beach House, bands like that. But there's actually a band that came out of the same college I went to in Nashville called Coin. They were there about 10 years after I was, and they've got some killer pop rock songs. Like they're just great. Yeah.
Cool. So, you go through all of this and, you're all in on the music side of things. You go through a pretty humbling experience. And like you alluded to, 2005 or so, you moved back to the Twin Cities. What on God's green earth made you decide that you wanted to go be an attorney? And now I get it. Like your dad, did the same path a little bit, but boy, that is a complete shift.
Total shift, 180-degree shift, which I think is what I wanted. I wanted to try something completely different. I wanted to challenge myself in a completely different way. Music education is great. I ended up getting a bachelor's of business degree focused on music business. But I wanted to challenge myself academically in a way that I really hadn't in undergrad. And the law was always fascinating to me. The legal profession was something I saw myself being able to do and being interested in. And so I took an LSAT prep course. I did well enough to get accepted to the University of St. Thomas here in the Twin Cities. And, I was in. I was excited. It's like, this is a new endeavor for me. I'm going to be testing myself in new ways, seeing how I stack up. And again, humbling experience, especially the first semester. I got it handed to me pretty badly. But I learned from it, and I learned how to study in a way that I hadn't before. And I ended up finishing with honors. And I was one of those masochists who genuinely enjoyed law school.
Wow.
It was a huge amount of work, a lot of time, but I really expanded my knowledge of the world and how government works and the legal process. And those skills serve me to this day as a business owner. So I'm, no regrets for going. I think it was a fantastic experience.
Well, I mean, just all the things that you learned and how you can apply that to business is fantastic. I think if I'm sitting back and I'm looking at the script of your life to this point, part of me would, if I didn't hear you articulating this, I would think that it maybe made sense for you to go to law school to then be maybe an agent or something like that. Did you ever have any ideas or thoughts around, okay, I'm going to go to law school and maybe I'll still be able to dip my toes in the water of music through being an agent or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely thought of that. In fact, now that you mention it, one of the reasons that I decided to go to law school was the attorney that my band had in Nashville, who I understand now has been working at NBC in Los Angeles for, I don't know, probably 2 decades as an attorney for NBC. I thought entertainment law was the route that I was going to go. Strangely enough, as I looked into it and I met with a couple local entertainment attorneys, I wasn't very drawn to it. I was more drawn towards, I guess, traditional business litigation and civil litigation. So that was kind of an interesting shift, but that was the spark, that probably caused me to want to apply and go through the whole thing.
I want to dive into your career, because then right after law school, I know you did some work did some firm work. So before we dive into your career stuff, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from a few of our community supporters, and then we're going to come right on back with Matt Schwandt. When you think of a typical CPA firm, you probably think of tax planning. Well, that just scratches the surface of what Boulay offers their clients. By providing smart, in-depth thinking from experts in accounting, audit, tax, and business consulting, they know what it takes to achieve financial success. Whether it's protecting your business, building your wealth, or securing your future, you can count on Boulay to go beyond addressing just financial matters and providing you with tailor-made, workable solutions. Learn about all they have to offer at BoulayGroup.com. Boulay, helping you get there. If you're an entrepreneur or married to one, your journey is complex. You want financial advice that impacts your whole net worth, including your business, not just stock market investments. You also want a partner that quarterbacks the relationships between the CPA, estate planner, banker, and other trusted advisors. That's where the team at eWealth Partners comes in. We love helping you and your spouse design a financial plan that aligns and empowers you. A plan that addresses your concerns, priorities, and goals tailored to reach your long-term vision. A long-term vision that is worth the pursuit today. Visit ewealthpartners.com to learn how they can help couples like you. eWealth Partners, holistic financial planning for entrepreneurs. Investment advisor services offered through AdvisorNet Wealth Management. eWealth Partners and AdvisorNet Wealth Management are not affiliated. Verseek Search and Consulting is thrilled to support Coalition9 and this podcast, and we are just as excited to have them as a partner. Verseek is a Minnesota-based, high-performance recruiting firm that specializes in interim solutions, direct hire, and executive leadership search. Their team of experienced professionals and seasoned leaders across various areas of expertise and industries have been in your shoes. They quickly assess your whole company and identify key elements that will take your business to the next level. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people, and few areas of your business are more critical than your finance and accounting team. Your company's success hinges on the capacity of your people. Verseek can help connect you with the talented candidates within finance and accounting, along with other areas of expertise in executive search, direct hire, and interim solutions. People are the ultimate business advantage. Find your people together with Verseek and make the best possible for your business. Learn more and contact Verseek by visiting Verseek.com and following them on LinkedIn. Every year brings new challenges for Minnesota business leaders, and USI Insurance is here to take the pressure off of the employee benefits decision. Having a local presence with national resources, USI combines a client-centric culture with leading-edge technical resources so you can make an informed decision on your benefits investment. The USI team has been deeply committed to investing into our local communities and utilizes their expertise to provide solutions you can count on to protect your greatest asset, your employees. USI has been partnering with Twin Cities businesses for decades, and they would welcome the opportunity to do the same for you. Visit USI.com to learn how USI's approach to risk management and employee benefits delivers customized, actionable solutions with bottom-line impact. All right, everybody needs a bank. Not just any bank, a good community bank. From personal needs like checking and savings accounts to business services like financing and M&A support, the team at Flagship Bank is there to provide you with the assistance you need so you can spend less time thinking about your finances and more time enjoying what your money can do for you. To learn more, head over to Flagship Banks, that's flagshipbanks with an S.com. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Flagship Bank, investing in you. United Healthcare is dedicated to helping people live healthier lives and making the health system work better for everyone by simplifying the healthcare experience, meeting consumer health and wellness needs, and sustaining trusted relationships with care providers. UHC is continually focused on building a modern, high-performing health system via improved access, affordability, outcomes, and experiences. With a network of over 1.6 million physicians and healthcare professionals and over 6,000 hospitals, United Healthcare is dedicated to connecting employers and their employees to better health by offering quality benefits designed for affordability. For more information, visit United Healthcare at www.uhc.com. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives. United Healthcare, helping people live healthier lives.
100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 1
All right, we're back with Matt Schwandt. Just got through. God, I mean, what a crazy, like you've lived almost some people's lifetimes
Yeah,
up until
pretty
this point.
nonlinear.
Right. And I mean, what a complete different shift of using two sides of your brain. So to me, that it says a lot about um we talk about nature versus nurture on this. So, talking about like you're a nice blend of almost like your parents, right? To where your dad and you take the same path, but then your mom is an elementary school teacher having to use both sides of her brain,
Mm-hmm.
right? From a linear standpoint and a creative standpoint to get kids to learn. And so it's really fascinating to see this path come to a point to where it's very non-traditional, but then you're just getting a little bit later start than everybody else because you lived life down in Nashville and lived a lifetime for probably some people.
Right, right. And I definitely felt that too. I was like, I mean, I'm about 7 or 8 years late in
Yeah.
sort of figuring out what it is I want to do. But I think that you can achieve success at any age. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that it's time bound. And I think everyone walks a different path and on a different timeline. And there were moments of frustration, where I would feel a little maybe self-conscious or feel like I was behind. And I don't think those things anymore. I know that I'm on a unique path, just like everyone else is on a unique path. And, it seems to be getting better every day.
And I think, now that we've got some years under our belts, I'm 46. I don't know how old you are, but I think we're, relatively close. But I
Not far
think,
behind.
all right, so there you go. So, I think you worry so much about that stuff in your 20s and there is a lot of like comparison and stuff like that happens. And your friends are getting out of college, and I know for me, like I'm a college dropout, so they were all getting jobs where I was not, and are good ones anyway. And so I
Yeah.
think, yeah, you're constantly in that. But now you fast forward and you look back on that, you really made hay after that because of the chances you took and the experiences you had. So, how long did you practice law for when you were done with law school?
It was around 4 or 5 years. I spent I graduated right in the middle of the recession,
Mm,
2009.
mm,
And some of the bigger firms in town, one, I can't remember the name of it, but had folded
mm,
the spring that I graduated. And everyone knew that's bad news.
mm-hmm.
A firm like that. I wish I could remember the name. But there was a hiring freeze at pretty much anywhere else. So job prospects were not looking great. And I spent the first 6 months after graduating doing temp work, like document review, um, until I got a really amazing offer to interview with the Attorney General's office for
Mm.
the state of Minnesota. And that actually came through the St. Thomas Career Office. They thought that I might be a good applicant for it, good candidate. And so I went and I interviewed, and to my surprise, they offered me a job.
Sweet.
uh, and I worked for Lori Swanson for 2 years, representing the largest state agency, the Department of Human Services. Got a wide range of practice experience. And the cool thing about working in the AG's office is you get to manage all your own cases.
Mm.
Little scary at first, but the freedom and flexibility that comes along with that is really cool. And it's a pretty rare thing. Fast forward a couple of years when I went to work in the private sector at a private firm, completely different atmosphere.
Mm.
You're working for a partner who assigns you things, and you certainly don't get to manage your own cases.
Mm. Do you feel like in working in the AG's office, did you have a healthy amount of mentorship that although you were managing cases on your own, you had whether it be Lori or a group of people that you could lean back on to be able to ask stupid questions and things like that kind of shores up your experience?
Yeah, I mean, Lori was pretty hands off. She trusted her division managers to provide that sort of experience for the staff attorneys like me. But I had some great division managers who did provide that mentorship, and it was very much an open door policy. Also different than in the private sector.
Mm.
No question was a dumb question at the AG's office, and I found out the hard way that that's not true in private firm life. Dumb question. You get held against you in private firm life.
And I think that's, you know I have a bunch of friends that are attorneys, and we've got obviously a bunch of C9ers that are attorneys, and you know, whether they be partners or they be earlier on in their track. But I think that it sounds to me like just you are either wired for that and you enjoy that life, or you just do not like it, and there is no in between.
I think in my experience, I think that you are 100% correct, which is why I ended up exiting.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're anything like me, I have one of my biggest weaknesses is I have a huge problem with authority, and I hate people telling me what to do. And I think that would be a recipe for disaster for anybody with that type of personality.
Yeah. I think I have that same disposition.
I got a little bit of that. All right. So then, so you spent a handful of years, did you go right into Bauhaus then? Did you have some ideas as you were practicing law around doing this because of your passion for craft beer, and then decided to dive in? Or did you kind of double dip a little bit and, all right, I'm going to practice law and then I'm going to do some stuff, kind of under the radar?
Well, even before going to law school, I started homebrewing beer. I wanted a new hobby, and I worked at a brew pub when I was in college. And I remembered that about once a month, there was a local homebrew club that would come in and sort of like, trade beers with each other. And at the time, I thought they were just nerds. I was like, there's no way that you're brewing great beer at home. Like, I know what it takes. I see the brewers at the brew pub and what they do. And I just on a whim, I decided to get a homebrew kit, and I followed the directions to the letter, and it actually turned out really good. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is a complete shift then. Maybe I can, get really good at this, and it could be a fun new thing for me. And so I didn't just dabble. I went all in, and I was pretty obsessive about it. And for the next 8-9 years, I brewed so much beer in so many different style categories. And like, I really started getting nerdy about lager styles, particularly German lager styles, because those are a little bit more challenging to brew. You can't hide the imperfections in a light lager like you can in a robust porter or a heavy stout or even an IPA. So those styles, I was just like, okay, I want to do something challenging and I want to perfect it. And then when I was practicing law, I started a legal blog that was focused on beer and brewing and some of the regulatory stuff, because I thought, well, here's a way that I could use my legal skills to benefit the brewing community. And that was fun. That was interesting. And when I realized that I didn't have that disposition to continue in firm life, I started thinking about business ownership. And I had always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what shape it was going to take. But craft beer seemed like an obvious direction, especially given the market at the time. This was like early, let's see, I got the idea about 2011, 2012. And with the help of several family members, we created a really great business plan. We secured funding, both from a bank and from a handful of private investors who believed in the idea. And we opened in July of 2014 in Northeast Minneapolis. And it was a great time to launch a brewery. People were really clamoring for more craft breweries at the time. And we were super excited to offer what we had hoped would be something a little bit different to the market. That was our big angle, was that we wanted to be a craft beer brand that didn't feel like a craft beer brand. We wanted to be colorful and inviting and inclusive and fun, and not intimidating or unapproachable or snobbish. We wanted it to be a craft brewery that everyone could enjoy, and we felt like the right way to do that would be to channel this uniquely German concept of Gemütlichkeit. And that's like our core tenet. And then we've got a big neon sign over the taproom bar that says it. And what it is it doesn't translate into English perfectly, but it's this sense of like belonging and celebrating the fruits of our labors together and enjoying life and celebrating, the small moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of our entire brand ethos.
And I think one thing that I always look at before I even knew you, I think you guys did such a good job from a marketing standpoint. I know you talked about, the colors, the brand ethos, but also the messaging around it, how you name your You're pretty unapologetic and like how you name your beers. There's even one named after I think you or your last name,
Yeah.
Schwantoberfest, right?
Yeah. So
So
that was, I used
and
to
it
have a backyard Oktoberfest party, and I
yeah,
just jokingly called it Schwantoberfest because it's just absurd. It doesn't make any sense. And it
yeah.
doesn't follow the naming convention that we use for our other beers. But we thought, well, it's just absurd enough. Let's just keep it and just see what happens in the market. I mean,
Yeah.
there are enough people with German backgrounds in the upper Midwest to see this ridiculous German name paired with Oktoberfest.
So we've had a couple events at your space that you have now. Were you always in that space, or were you somewhere and then moved in there? I guess I don't really remember the trajectory of that.
No, that's where we launched. And we
Okay.
were very lucky to find that space. In the
Wow.
beginning, we weren't even considering Northeast Minneapolis because there were already 3 or 4 breweries in the area. And we thought, well, why don't we go to a community where there isn't a craft brewery yet?
Mm.
But we had an existing relationship with the property owner. He knew that we were looking for a property. And he called us and said, hey, this tenant failed to exercise an option on this really unique building that we think would make a perfect brewery and production center. Do you want to take a look at it? And within a couple of days, we had a lease signed because it was, as soon as we saw it, we were like, yes, this is the place. This is amazing.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I think you do a really good job at too is staying on the cutting edge of the things that are changing in that world. Because I think, I kind of picked up on alluding to the fact that there might be a little bit of oversaturation of everybody and their brother having a craft brewery now, but it's how do they use that to then as a vehicle to then diversify. And that's one thing, watching you from a distance and then through C9, seeing you a little bit closer up is just your thoughtfulness and your strategic side of how you're continuing to diversify. I opened up the podcast with, most prolific craft breweries, but that's not actually really that viable anymore because you have so many other things that are prolific. What does that future hold for the direction that you're looking to take Bauhaus?
Well, the direction that we're looking to take Bauhaus, I think, is really exciting. But I need to back up a little bit before I get there. So 6 years ago, I actually had a medical condition that forced me to abandon alcohol.
Oh.
I spent 3 days in the hospital with acute pancreatitis, which is a condition I had never even heard of before. I went in because I was having these incredible abdominal pains that just kept getting more intense and intense. And I mean, it's the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I went to the hospital. They did some blood tests and they said, yeah, you got to stay here until your enzyme levels in your pancreas go back to normal. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why would this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, about 90% of the time it's due to excess alcohol consumption. And, I didn't think of myself as someone who drank any more than most people in our industry do, which is admittedly probably more than the general population, because it's so normalized in our industry.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, it's lunch. You better have a beer, or you're visiting this account. You need to have a beer. It's an industry party. You obviously have to have a beer.
Mm-hmm.
We find all sorts of reasons to consume. And the problem is it's really detrimental to your health. And so I learned that the hard way. And there was a lot of introspection that I did after that. Well, what am I going to do? This is my livelihood. I started this out of a passion for craft beer. Well, after wrestling with that for a while, we were approached by a startup company in St. Paul called ABV Technology. And they had created this device that uses vacuum distillation to remove alcohol from beer while preserving a lot of the flavor and aroma compounds that would ordinarily get stripped out during the traditional process of removing alcohol from beer. So one of the reasons why some of the big brands of non-alcoholic beer that receive groans from the public is because they don't have those volatile compounds that make it smell, taste like a regular beer. Well, ABV's technology allowed us to put out a product that tastes remarkably similar to the real thing. And I thought, wow, what a cool opportunity to come across, given my personal situation. And at the time, NA beer was not really something that we imagined there would be a huge market for, but we figured there'd be some people who enjoyed it. And over the next few years, it kind of steadily grew and grew. And now it's just exploding. And it's not just NA beer, it's all sorts of different NA beverages. And of course, with the legalization of cannabis in Minnesota, we also have the ability to package THC beverages, which has been a boon for us and has caused us to want to lean even further into the NA and functional beverage space. So it's sort of with that background that gets me really excited for the opportunities for a brewery like ours. My vision is that we live up to our name as the Bauhaus Brew Labs, that we're a laboratory that has this diverse portfolio of all sorts of beverages, and really lean into the ones that speak to me personally and that I know now have a wide audience that are interested in these as well, particularly in functional beverages. And by functional beverages, I mean beverages that provide energy or promote sleep or relaxation. Alcohol replacement is really what we're going for. Like, it has some of the effects that you might feel if you consume alcohol without any of the intoxication. That there's a really fast growing market for those kinds of beverages. And if anybody is interested in seeing what that's like, I would highly encourage them to go to Marigold Bottle Shop in Southwest Minneapolis. It's an all NA bottle shop, and they've got everything from NA spirits to NA wine to our THC products, as well as a number of great functional beverages.
Yeah. And I think, that, like I said a little bit ago, like always on the cutting edge of, how things are coming to market. And I think you're doing a really good job of paying attention to what the market wants. Right. And I think there has been I think COVID had a little bit of an impact on this. Like, I don't know. I think
Definitely.
I think a lot of people just sat at home and drank, and it's like, I can't do this shit anymore. Like, I'm going to drive myself into the ground. So then you get a guy like me that is open to like trying different things and mixing it up a little bit. And I said to you before we started, I think I sent you a text maybe a couple weeks ago, but then also before we started, like, one of my favorite things is your Tetra THC drinks, and they're just 5 milligrams, so it's nothing crazy here, but it just is something a little different. That for me, I just need something to just kind of take the edge off a little bit at the end of the day, but I don't want to be the guy that just drinks every single day. And I just love the accessibility to these things, and I love the work that you're doing to make sure that they taste good and they serve the purpose.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And you just kind of hit the nail on the head for what we were going for with Tetra. Our concept behind that brand was to create a LaCroix style sparkling water that makes you feel good. Yep. It's got 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 gluten. It's just a lightly essenced water that makes you feel good. Yep. Now we are dropping a new kind of THC product in the next few weeks that we're calling Tetra Juiced, which is going to have a fruit juice base. So it won't be 0 sugar, but it's still going to be fairly low calorie. It'll be about 40% juice. First flavor will be mango pineapple, and it's got 10 milligrams of THC and no CBD. There is a market for that these days. In fact, I was out visiting accounts with a few of our sales reps in the last few weeks, and a lot of our retailer partners were saying the 10 milligram beverages are the ones that are selling the best right now. That said, our 5 milligram beverages are not going away. Cool. There is a customer who wants that style of THC beverage. It's the one that I prefer personally.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
But even that said, I don't find myself consuming cannabis products much anymore.
Yeah.
I really am more interested in just natural wellness and experiencing life as it happens without altering my mental state.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what's always good with the marketing and the branding. So what do you call your non-alcoholic beverages?
They're called Nah. And that came out of personal experience. It's just after I had to stop drinking, people would ask me, "Hey, can I buy you a beer? Or do you want to drink?" And my standard response was just, "Nah, I'm good."
Yeah.
And I figured that's something that could be relatable for people who are, choosing not to drink, or they're sober or sober curious. And that the name stuck.
So as if you didn't have enough going on in your world, I think you do a really good job of following your passions. This far in your journey, we've heard about a lot of these things that you've done that I think all aligned with what you're passionate about. And so whether that be music or craft breweries or now getting into non-alcoholic beverages, but you also have a passion for culture and you have a passion for leadership. And so some of the good work that you're doing as an impact advisor, I love you because this is brand new. So dig into
Mhm.
some of that work that you're doing and how it fills some of that passion that you're looking for as well.
Yeah. Well, about this time last year, I started exploring, how can I level up my professional game even further? Um, I love what I do at Bauhaus. It's great. Like I said, there's a lot of opportunity there, as we've kind of discussed, but
Mhm.
I wanted to push myself further professionally. And I felt like the consulting space was a natural landing spot for that. And so last year, I decided to get a certification, a marketing framework called Story Brand that was created by a guy named Donald Miller, who's actually coincidentally from Nashville. And strangely enough, we have some mutual contacts, mutual friends. Um, but that was a really cool opportunity for me to enter the consulting space, doing some marketing work that I felt comfortable with. And then joining C9, I got connected to Jamie Tates of Keystone International Group.
Mm-hmm.
And that really kind of set a fire under me. She had explained that she wanted to grow what she was doing at Keystone, that she had this book coming out, which is now out, The Culture Climb. It was released earlier this year, and it was a #1 Amazon debut for her, which was super exciting. And Chelsea Paulson, her business partner, was also a co-writer. And just getting to know Jamie more and more over the next several months, I indicated an interest in being part of Keystone and helping her grow what they were doing, particularly with culture. And so she asked me and a handful of others to come on as impact advisors for Keystone to help them take on some of the culture work and foundational work that they do so that Jamie could sort of step up and work on developing the brand a little further, because she feels like that's where she's going to be most effective. And as you know, she's very effective at selling Keystone. She does really, really well because she's an inspiring person and she has a lot of great ideas, and we can all learn from the things that she's putting out there right now. But one of the coolest things I've done with Keystone so far is lead a series of 6 culture climb roundtable discussions with a small group of 6. And I believe there's another one kicking off in November. We might go up to 8 people, but we take these groups through the Culture Climb book and build on some of the concepts introduced in that book and how people can apply that to their own lives as individuals or teams or organizations. How can we level up culture? Because culture has a huge impact on a company's bottom line and just organizational health.
And I'm a huge fan of Jamie's. Jamie's actually in the group that I facilitate, so we've become really good friends. I'm a
Cool.
huge fan of Chelsea. Like you fit right in there, just from a personality standpoint, and what you're passionate about, and I just to me that's such an exciting part of um your career and your journey as you continue to move forward, because I think you've got something really great, obviously great going with Bauhaus. But if you're anything like me, like I sometimes tend to get a little bit bored. And so,
Yes.
things need to evolve, and it's cool that you're launching new brands and new products and things like that. But sometimes it's just good to do something completely adjacent from that, to where you can tap into some of the things, almost like that legal side of your brain that needs to get pushed a little bit. The reason why you went to go become an attorney, you're going to get that out of that being an impact advisor.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing that now too. And also a lot of the things that I'm learning through Keystone, I'm able to apply at
Right.
Bauhaus to improve
Yeah, well
our
said.
organizational health.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always thought that we have a pretty strong culture, but there's always room for improvement, and business changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamics change over time. COVID certainly had an impact on that. And just employee well-being. And so this is a perfect time to start deploying some of Keystone's tools at Bauhaus to improve our organization.
Yeah, sweet. I love it. All right. Before we dig into 9 questions, I always like to touch on family stuff. So tell me a little bit about your family and some of the personal side of things.
Yeah, I've got two awesome kids. Sam, my son, is 14. My daughter, Lily, is 12. They are competitive swimmers. They swim for Aquajet's swim team in Eden Prairie.
Cool.
And they go to Edina schools. My son is a freshman at Edina High School, and my daughter is a seventh grader at Southwest Middle School.
Sweet.
We have a dog named Simon,
There we go.
golden retriever, biggest doofus on the planet, best dog ever.
Yeah. Are you a big dog guy? Have you had dogs in the past too?
Yeah, well, so we had them growing up, but nothing like a golden retriever.
Yeah.
My parents always got the weirdest breeds that were not the most fun to play with as kids, but Simon is just the most friendly, just awesome, docile, you know, I don't know. He's a great friend.
Yeah. I was going to say, he's your sidekick, right?
He is.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I got a little over 1-year-old chocolate lab, and I'm a lab guy, just like you're probably now become I mean, those two dogs are cut from the same cloth, except I do think that golden retrievers can just be a little bit more goofy and like, they're just the biggest lovers in the world.
Yep. He is
man.
a total goof. Yeah.
I love it. All right, let's dig into 9 questions here in a second. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from a few more of our community supporters that make this thing happen, and we're going to come right back with Matt. If you're anything like me, you know enough to be dangerous when it comes to finance, yet need some help when things get complicated. All-in-One Accounting provides the right financial expertise and leadership to align with your stage of growth. From outsourced accounting and bookkeeping to strategic financial planning, the team of accounting rockstars at All-in-One Accounting are passionate about positively impacting the businesses and lives of their clients. You need to check them out at allinoneaccounting.com. All-in-One Accounting, taking our clients from financial chaos to business clarity and beyond. Regardless if you're a startup just figuring things out or a medium-sized organization with a full team, having a legal partner by your side is crucial. Seiler Law is fiercely loyal to their clients and are passionate about removing headaches and roadblocks that can pop up during the growth of your business. Whether you need general outside counsel, are planning a business transaction, or even need someone to guide you through the estate planning process, the team at Seiler Law are the advocates for you. Visit seilerlaw.com to learn more. Seiler Law, where experience meets pragmatism. The topic of talent is hot in organizations of any size, and I would argue none more than small to mid-sized businesses. That's why it's crucial to have a partner to help you navigate all the HR idiosyncrasies so you can focus on working on your business and not in it. Insperity is a full-service HR partner with a high-touch, high-tech platform helping owners work through challenges like employee retention, company culture, and benefits, just to name a few. Do yourself a favor and explore all they have to offer at Insperity.com. Insperity, HR that makes a difference. For more than 20 years, Kaisa has been the trusted financial advisor for women, business owners, executives, and high net worth families, developing financial plans designed to meet them where they are and propel them to where they want to be. Their mission is to remove the worry and stress associated with financial planning and replace it with clarity and confidence. The Kaisa team takes the time to understand each client's unique situation, from financial concerns to the visions that they have for current and future generations, in order to create a truly customized plan. Through consistent communication and personal attentiveness, Kaisa is fiercely devoted to personal well-being and financial prosperity. Get to know the Kaisa team and how they can serve you at kaisawealth.com. In addition to the community supporters you heard from on the show today, I also want to give a quick shout out to our evolving level community supporters, Carlson Partners, Fluid Interiors, Keystone Group International, Modern Foundation, and Rev Advisory Group. All right, we're back with Matt Schwandt. I am pumped to drop some of these questions on you, especially given our conversation today. So can you confirm to me that you have no idea what I'm about to ask you?
Yeah, that's why I'm nervous. I'm in the hot seat.
That's what I like to hear. All right, let's dig in. Give me an example of one thing that you're reading or listening to right now to educate yourself.
In the last year, I've become a really big fan of Dan Sullivan, who started The Strategic Coach. And The Gap and the Gain is a book I just finished of his that has had a big impact on the way that I think about success, the way that I evaluate my own personal success. And the theory of the book is that, you know, when you're in your mind and you're listening to the stories that your ego feeds you, which are not trustable, you can get really cynical. You can get depressed. You can get yourself in a negative tailspin. But if you look at things in what he considers the gain, you're not wondering about an unknown future. You're looking at how far you've come from the past. Instead of looking at the horizon, look backwards and see how far you've come. That's when you're in the game. That's the stuff that motivates you to keep pushing and level up.
Yeah.
So I would say Gap in the Game.
His books are good, man. Like I've listened to, I'm a listener, so I've listened to every single one. And for those people that don't know who Dan Sullivan is, you know, you can pick up Who Not How or Gap in the Gain, or the new one is, was it 10X, not 2X or something?
Yeah. 10X is greater than 2X.
Yeah. Something like that. And so that one's really good. And yeah, I'm a huge fan. So good example. What is one thing that immediately brightens your day?
The staff at Dogwood Coffee in Northeast Minneapolis, right next to Bauhaus. I'm in there at least once a day, grabbing my coffee. They are the friendliest people. It's just always a pleasant experience. And I love coffee.
Yeah, good shout out to the Dogwood people. Okay, let's keep this tight, but describe to me your perfect Saturday.
My perfect Saturday would involve a hike or a bike ride. Something in nature, spending some time with my kids and my dog, probably playing some guitar, and making a great dinner. I love cooking. I'm pretty good at it, and I enjoy it. I think that's a pretty great Saturday for me.
Yeah, sounds like a good Saturday. Doesn't sound like it's in the wintertime either.
No, definitely summer.
I picked up on some of that.
Yeah.
All right. Well done. What would you rather? You got two would you rather questions. So buckle up. Would you rather give up toothpaste or deodorant?
Oh, deodorant for sure. I have to brush my teeth twice a day. I'm pretty religious about it. In fact, I just had a dentist appointment last week and they said, "You have beautiful teeth." That was so gratifying. That was gratifying. It's like, yeah, I brush them twice a day. I can't stand not brushing my teeth. Yeah, but deodorant, I could do without that.
Yeah, I just came up from boys weekend and we were up fishing with 6 guys, and it's shocking to me how many people don't brush their teeth multiple times, you know, at least when you wake up and go to bed, I think are like the 2 non-negotiables in my book. But
yes. But
also it's shocking to me how many people don't wear deodorant. So to me, that was a living example of everyone choosing toothpaste over deodorant. Gross. What is one guilty pleasure that you indulge in?
Listening to the band Fish.
Oh, that's a good guilty pleasure. That's not even anything that is like a guilty pleasure, but yeah, good jam band.
Yeah, I guess it depends. You know, they're kind of polarizing depending on who you talk to. But I gotta say, I enjoy them. I always have. I saw them twice when I was in high school, and I was kind of hooked.
My favorite Fish song is them covering "Gin and Juice" by Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, they play great covers.
I know.
You know, they're kind of known for their Halloween shows because they do an album from front to back. And they did Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars a few years ago, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, super talented musicians, man.
Yeah.
If you could give a TED Talk on anything except something related to your career, what would it be?
I think it would probably be something to do with spiritual evolution. And that's a big topic to unpack. But what I mean by that is I really enjoy Michael Singer, the author of The Untethered Soul. It's one of the most impactful books I've ever read. And what he considers spirituality is accepting that we are not our thoughts. We're not our mind. We are the beings who are observing those things. And, you know, Buddhists would call that witness consciousness. I think if I could give a TED Talk to help people understand that we're not your thoughts are not trustable all the time. They're not absolute sources of truth. I think that makes for a lot happier life, a lot more inner stillness. Because I lived the first 40 years of my life thinking that my thoughts were the ultimate source of truth, the only source of truth. And gosh, the last couple of years, as I've dug into that and explored it and changed my perception of that and a lot of ideas concerning spiritual things, it's had a really amazing positive impact on my life. And I'd love for other people to be able to learn about that and figure out how to make that shift for themselves.
Oh, sweet. Is he would you put him in the same category as almost like an Eckhart Tolle or something like that?
Yes, very much. Yep.
Yeah.
Same, cut from the same cloth. Yeah.
Is he easier to follow than Eckhart Tolle? Because I think you really got to get into the depths and be prepared for a journey if you're going to get into some of his stuff.
Yeah, I think he is a little easier to digest than Eckhart.
Okay.
He has a really great conversational way of describing these things that really spoke to me, at least.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks for putting that out there. Yeah, you might have something in your future there, because I think that's a fascinating topic that I think a lot of people will want to hear. So I'm just going to leave that at that. What was your favorite concert that you've ever attended?
I don't know if I can narrow it down to just one. I'll tell you the first concert I ever attended, and then I'll tell you my favorite one of the last year. Okay. When I was 14 years old, I was pretty obsessed with Metallica, and they had just come out with the Black Album in '91. Yeah. And this is the very first show I ever saw, and my dad only let me go if he'd only let me go if he came with. So my dad and I went to Somerset, Wisconsin, and saw Suicidal Tendencies, Danzig, and Metallica play a triple bill.
Sweet.
And although I don't really listen to that kind of music anymore, it was mind blowing. It was life changing. It was incredible.
That is a hell of a first concert. I've heard people have run the gamut and that's a good question I asked too, is first concert people have ever seen. I mean, I've heard Amy Grant to Christian stuff to rap music and everything, but I haven't heard Metallica yet.
Yeah, it was incredible. And just kind of a funny anecdote, Christian Laettner was standing behind me at that show.
back when he was a thing.
Yeah. My buddy and I turned around and said, are you Christian Laettner? And he's just like, yeah, I like Metallica.
I saw Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Faith No More at the Metrodome. And that was the like the craziest long concert I've ever like. That went till 2:30 in the morning because they couldn't find Faith No More went on. Then there was like a 30-minute break, and then there was Guns N' Roses supposed to go on. They didn't go on for another 90 minutes because they couldn't find Slash.
Okay. Yeah. That
tracks. So says a little bit about the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s in music. Yeah.
I would say my favorite show of this last year, though, I don't know if you've ever heard a band called Krungbin. They're from Texas. They're super cool. Three-piece band. It's just like real chill, kind of groovy music. It's guitar, bass, and drums. They're from Houston, Texas, and they played the Palace last year, and they were phenomenal.
Say that name again.
Krungbin is CHRUANGBIN. It's the Thai word for airplane.
Fascinating. I'll have to look that up. Would you rather always say everything on your mind or never speak again? Always. So when I say always, I mean always. Like always say the things that are on your mind.
I'm a little less self-conscious and inhibited these days, so I'd probably say I would rather speak everything on my mind than not communicate at all.
Would you say prior to, you referenced maybe turning 40 and going through some, whether it be spiritual awakening or just life changes and stuff like that. Now, prior to that change, do you think you maybe would have said different?
I might have. I think I'm a little more secure in myself these days, where it's just like, I'm going to say some dumb stuff every once in a while. It doesn't define me.
Yeah. That's good. Good. I love it. All right. Last one. If you could have dinner with two people, alive or dead, who would those two people be?
One of them would be John Lennon. I would just love to pick his brain. The other would probably be Michael Singer. To plug him again, I just think that he's got such an incredible worldview, and he's lived it out over his entire life. I don't know. He's got another book called The Surrender Experiment that's kind of an autobiographical book that talks about his journey, and the guy has lived just a rich life. Doing some pretty incredible things, everything from like founding WebMD back in the 90s. Like he taught himself how to program on a Radio Shack computer that he bought, that he brought back to his meditation retreat in Florida, and just on his own time learned it. He's just had a fascinating life, and I would just love to talk with him.
Well, I think getting two people like that both went through pretty major spiritual awakenings as well. John Lennon, he went
Yep.
through a major change that pretty much changed the trajectory for of the Beatles and him personally. That would probably be a fascinating conversation with those two.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty great.
Yeah, man. All right, man, you survived. I got to tell you, like, one, the other C9ers in your group all rave about, the impact that you have on them and the relationships that you've built in your small group. So I'm thrilled to have you as part of our community. And you've been such a great trooper about letting us do some events at your place. We do tap room takeover at Bauhaus and that stuff like that. So that's awesome. But more than anything, man, I'm so thrilled that people got to get to know you a little bit, to know who you are, kind of the face behind the brand of Bauhaus, and then some of the cool things that you got coming on in the future. So therefore, I want more people to get to know you and be able to reach out to you and become your friend. How can people get a hold of you the best moving forward?
You can reach me at matt@bauhausbrewlabs.com. It's BAUHAUS brew, as in beer brewing, labs plural.com, or LinkedIn, just Matt Schwandt. And if you want to look at Bauhaus's Instagram, which is pretty groovy, it's just at Bauhaus Brew Labs.
Sweet. Cool. People reach out. What I'll do is I will make sure that we hot link some of those things in our show notes. So whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're picking it up on your audio app of choice, you can check out Matt's links there. And I'm just thrilled to have you on the show, man. Thanks a lot for being here, and thanks for being such a contributor to our C9 community, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Aaron. And this has been fantastic. It's always good to see you. And I got to say, like, C9 has been pretty instrumental in helping me level up professionally in the last year. And I'm really excited for the future and continue to be a part of it. My group is awesome. I love them. And yeah, it's just been great so far. And I've been referring other people to C9 too. So I hope you've been getting some advice.
Well, you just saying that makes my heart sing and makes me feel good, man. So that's what it's all about, is just have an impact. So on behalf of Matt, this has been the Power of Nine podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Eggert, and I want to thank you for the privilege of your time.